Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk or basically update you on how it's been moving to Europe. I've been here for 6 months already and so much in my life has changed since I moved that I think that this video could be interesting to anyone that is thinking about moving to Europe, Spain if I'm a little bit more specific. So I was going to do this in more like a vlog format, but I decided that it was better to just bring the camera out with a good lens and the good microphone and just calm down, sit down and talk about it. I just want to remember everyone that this is my personal experience in my specific city coming from my background. So you might have a completely different experiences, even like in the areas that I live in the city. You can find it to be way more different if you live a little bit closer to the center. Offering a little bit of context, I am Mexican, Spanish and German. This is because I was born and raised in Mexico. My dad and my entire family is Spanish and they live here in Spain, and my mom's side of the family, they are German but also like Mexican American. Like my family has always been quite of a mix. Growing up in Mexico, I would eat, consume and live Spanish culture because I grew up with my dad, but also every time that I would go for Christmases or anything to my mom's side of the family with my grandparents, I would also be into German culture. So I was very familiar with how I was living here because I would visit my family very often. I have lived here, also lived for a year around Europe when I took a break from college. So it's not like I was like, oh my god, this is so different, so shocking. So I knew what I was getting into. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to move, but I've been getting a few comments and a few messages from people that are looking into moving from the US to Europe and that want to know how life is here different from overall America, I can tell you. But I moved to Barcelona 6 months ago, more specifically in September of 2022, and it was something that was very planned. We knew that we were going to come back to live in Europe after we took the year off, so my fiance and I, we lived here in Europe for about a year together, and I took him to my family house. He met my entire family. We lived in Madrid, we lived in Barcelona, we lived in France, we lived in Austria, so we did travel around a lot. I don't know if anyone is gonna be able to relate to this, but if you ever took like a year off or an internship or exchange or something when you were in college and you went back home, the changes feel so strong and you either decide if you want to go back or stay where you live. And for both of us, it was, we definitely want to go back, we definitely want to move to Europe. I just like it more, and for me growing up, the differences were always very clear. I'm gonna state them, all of them here. So yes, I am very happy and I don't think that I would ever go back to living in Mexico, the US. I'm saying this, of course, not knowing anything about what future has for me, but I'm saying this with how I feel right now and what my life experiences have been. And this has a lot to do with my upbringing, my personality, my fears, my likes, my hobbies. So any of this might not really work for you because you might find comfort in how things work better in America. So I do have some notes to cover everything and not forget about it, because sometimes when I film a topic that is as broad as this one, I tend to forget topics. Okay, so I want to start with the car. It's definitely something that has been a very big change for me. So when I was living in Mexico, you would need the car for absolutely everything. And when I say everything, I mean for the minimum thing. You need toilet paper, you need to grab the car. It's a minimum 10-minute drive. It can either be because of distances, because of traffic, whatever. Distances are very, very long. And for me, I used to live in a private gated residential area, so I had to grab the car for pretty much anything. And overall, every city that I have lived in America felt not very walkable friendly. This can change if you live in New York, probably that it's a very, very big city that has very good public transportation. Here I have a car and I never get to use it because Barcelona is not very car friendly. Like the way that the city was constructed, it's a very, very smart city. If you ever go and look a little bit into the logistics of how the city works, the way the blocks are made, there are so many light and stops that it just takes a really long time. There's nowhere to park, and if you want to park, it's very, very expensive, and everything is so like compressed as a city that you take less time if you walk or take public transportation. So what I do, if it's less than a 20-minute walk, I walk, and if it's more than 20 minutes, I take the subway, the bus or a cab. I just don't like taking the car out. It's too complicated. Sometimes if you go to a restaurant, if they have valet parking, perfect, but if they do not have it, you take such a long time to find where to park. Even at parking lots like the underground ones, they're usually packed. So the reason why we have the car is because I sometimes do need it when we're going somewhere that is a little bit further from the city, or when we want to make trips. We really like doing road trips, but overall I went from using the car for every single thing every single day to never using the car. So now I have to walk pretty much everywhere. Walking is also something that changed a lot when I moved, and this is something that I'm going to talk overall, like as a woman that in general never felt comfortable walking alone, especially at night. Here I know that many people are gonna tell me that Barcelona, it's dangerous. Pretty much every single big city is dangerous in some way, but I can walk alone at night. Not 2 a.m, I don't really do that, but during winter it's nighttime by 6. So I need to go places, and sometimes I really like to walk, and I can walk pretty much everywhere if I want to. Of course, you have to be very, very careful. I've had some icky experiences, but nothing that really worries me that much. I mean, coming from a country where it was a little bit more of a risk, this feels like nothing, and I'm so happy and I feel so content. The fact that I can just walk to the club, to the grocery store any time of the day by myself, and maybe the worst thing that can happen is to get pickpocketed or something like that. Maybe they can take the bag away, but you need to be careful and you need to be aware of your surroundings. But I just didn't walk at all. If I wanted to walk, I had to go to the gym or walk at the mall. Like, I'm not kidding. That was the way that I was living my life. Or if you live in a gated community, you can walk around that. Unless you live just in the city center, you just don't take the car. I have been loving using the subway a lot. It's very, very fast. I honestly feel very, very comfortable. It's the fastest way to get places. It's usually very, very clean, and it's a very affordable way to move yourself around the city. The subway here is so convenient and so easy to use that for me, that I was someone that would probably need directions most of the time, like I can move around here by myself, no issues. With this change of lifestyle, I can see that I definitely walk way, way more, and I move way, way more than I used to when I was not living here, and it has ended up resulting in me feeling better, feeling happier. You hit the 10,000 steps if you only do the basics. Like, sometimes I am very much a home potato and I don't leave my house because I work here, I edit here, and I pretty much do anything that I need to inside my house. But most days I try to go out and it's quite easy, and everywhere that you go, it's really, really pretty. I just feel like that made one of the biggest changes in my life. Being able to be so independent and walk around and not needing the car at all feels honestly very, very good. Now with the food, you definitely are gonna see the changes in food, especially when it comes to like candy and junk food. We don't have as many options here. You're definitely not gonna find, unless you go to a specific store with those types of American candy, you're not gonna be able to find it. So I have been the person that has to go to a Mexican store to find food that I want, and sometimes to an American candy store to find the chips that I like or candy or whatever, because here the candy is very different and the selection is not very big, which I also kind of like. Like, if you go to the grocery store, which we rarely do, we ended up switching going to Walmart, for example, to going to the market, and in the market they give you everything fresh. It's cheaper. Of course, you have less options, and for things like cereal, bread, and that type of stuff, you have these little shops that have a very narrow selection of things that you can buy. You don't have 20 different types of toilet paper. You don't have 30 different types of cereal or chips or cookies. You have a few, and that's it. And most of them here are European brands, so they taste different. Like, even if you compare like Fruit Loops, they look different, they taste different, and they feel like less flavored. So things like cereal, chips, overall like really junk food, they don't taste as good here. So it has made me not want to eat it that much anymore. So I did quit a little bit the junk food in that sense, and you change them for other things. And also you're gonna see that people go more often to the grocery store or to the market because you buy less. So you buy food for 2-3 days tops. So there's nothing like Costco. I think there's Costco in Madrid, but not here in Barcelona. So you don't even need like a cart. Like, you never, at least us, we never go and do that anymore. The big basket full of things are gonna last you a week, maybe even 2. No, this doesn't happen here anymore. And also something that I found complicated for me was breakfast. So I used to be the type of person that I always had to have eggs for breakfast, at least in some type of way. And you come here and it's basically a piece of bread and coffee, and it's sometimes toast. Here they're a little bit better because they give you ham, cheese, jam, butter, and that. But like, my experiences in some other European countries was just like, here's your croissant or your bread and you can have your coffee, and everyone is very happy doing that. I have started to introduce this into my routine sometimes So you can go out, you grab your coffee and you grab a croissant, and that's your breakfast. And then when you have your meal, you sit down and do that. You live outside way more. So you can see parents, people of all ages, teenagers, everyone is just outside constantly. So you walk and every single block you will find 2 or 3 cafes, a restaurant, bars. Outside of schools, this is something that I find fascinating. Like outside of schools, people pick up their kids and they have this little kind of playgrounds attached to a little bar. So you can see the parents having beer or wine and the kids are playing. You go to the parks, they're always full. People go to the beach, they sit down and they have like little picnics, but people are most of their day outside of their houses. And I see that people eat out a lot. People go for long walks on the street constantly, and this could be also something that can happen in the US. This is something that I can only speak about my personal experience, but you live a lot outside here and you really like that, like going and sitting down at a bar, at a cafe and talking for hours and hours. You can work there, meet with friends, or just sit down and saw people walk by. Sometimes I do that with Masha. Everything is very pet friendly. Like you can go inside the restaurant with your dog. No issues usually. Hotels, pretty much anything you can do with your dog, which I find very, very good, especially having a big dog. Most places will accept you if you have like a pug or a chihuahua, but if you have a golden retriever, they're like, no, they're gonna disturb other customers. Like, no, here everyone is quite chill about it. In logistics, things do work a little bit more different. Like for me, coming here and getting like my paperwork ready, being a Spanish person was very complicated. So if you are someone who plans to move in here, I wish I could help you with all of that, giving you tips, but honestly, I still don't even know how I managed to do it. One day I was very lucky going into the police station and they were able to renew my passport because with COVID, everything was very much shut down and the waiting times were very long. So I was just like, I'm just gonna try to fix it there. So I have my national ID and everything all in rule because I went to the police station. Paulo is here with a visa and that was a little bit of a longer process, complicated, but it's definitely doable if you want to move here. Now this one, it's going to probably be targeted to my city perhaps, and even my area. I live a little bit on the north of the city, so if I was closer to the city center and to where the tourists gather, I wanted to get away a little bit from the tourists in that sense. Perhaps it would be different, but here Sundays are almost dead. Stores are closed, pharmacies closed. There's only a few things that are probably open, but the market is closed. Even luxury stores, I think this changes in the summer and they open also on Sundays and they open a little bit later. And I know that in Madrid this is different because Sundays were not as stay home, chill. Cafes are open sometimes, not all of them, and the hours are different. And this was a complete shock for me because I knew that it was a thing, but in Mexico everything is open on Sundays. Like more so, people go out a lot more on Sundays because it's their day off. So that's the day that you go to the movies, that you go to have dinner, that you go shopping. It's the day where the malls are overpacked. When I was in New York last year, like it was Sunday, it was very, very active. And here around my area, you go out and it's like ghost town a little bit. Like you don't see much happening. What I have started to do is that I take Sundays as self-care day and also filming. So if I have a video topic that I want to film and sit down, I stay home, I film that day, I do a facial, we watch movies, we do something like that, because honestly there's not much that we can do. Maybe we could go hiking and that stuff. It's possibly something that we're gonna do more during the summer because it's been very cold and rainy, so we haven't really been feeling like going and do the touristic stuff. But also during the week, at least this has happened to me in the past couple of months, but between like 3 to 5 I would say, or 2 to 5, depends on where you want to go, everything kind of closes and everyone goes to their houses to take a nap, eat, etc. This I've noticed it a little bit more here and I think I kind of love it. Like the overall ambience and feeling is that people rest, they enjoy a lot. You see them outside having their beer, their wine, their tapas, and just chilling, getting things done. Sometimes here it's a little bit more complicated. Like we had a leak in the bathroom a few months ago and that has been fixed, but they left a hole on the tiles and we keep calling and they're like, yeah, we're gonna send someone next week, and they don't really come. They're like, oh, it's because we had this day off and this and this and that. And one thing is, when they come, they get it fixed like this, super fast, very efficient, but getting them to come is quite complicated. The way healthcare works here and police and everything is amazing, and how safe if everything feels. So here the social security and like the medical care free when you pay your taxes is so good. Like in Madrid, one of the best hospitals that you can get to is public. So public healthcare here is amazing. Transportation is amazing. Overall, I just really love it living here. It's been such a big change for me. I have encountered things that have been tricky for me. So I can tell you that in Mexico, we're a little bit like less direct, a little bit nicer. Like we are very warm people and we try to make people feel comfortable. I don't know how to explain that. So example, I'm at a restaurant. In Spanish, I would ask, may I please have a glass of water? Like that's how I would usually express myself. And in Spanish is, te podría pedir un vaso de agua. But they will constantly reply to me, yeah, you can ask if you want to. And they would laugh. Sometimes they would even ask like, you're from Mexico or you're from Latin America. And I was like, yeah. Of course, the accent gives me away. I don't have a Spanish accent, I have Mexican accent, but people really like Mexicans here, so that's really nice. Barcelona is a very international city, so they do speak Catalan here, and I plan to learn Catalan if we decide to stay here for good. But you mainly are gonna listen to Spanish, but every time that you walk down the street, you hear French, English, German, Italian. You hear so many different languages, and that's been a little bit like an overload for me sometimes, because you're walking and you're in the subway and you hear so many different languages, which is very rich. But for someone who is used to just hearing mainly Spanish and English probably on TV, because in Mexico we consume so much of America's culture, like the food, the lifestyle, the TV mostly, like everything that we watch is in English, and we are taught to watch TV in English with almost English subtitles most of the time. So here for me it's been quite funny that they just don't use English for the mundane things like movies. If you go to a movie theater, you will most likely not find an English screening, so it's always going to be doubled to Spanish, and this is something that I just can't do. I need to watch every movie. It doesn't matter if it's in Chinese, I will watch the movie in Chinese with subtitles, but I cannot watch like the movie in a language that is not the one that the actor is speaking. I don't know why, maybe it's an issue that I have. Even like names of bands or food or things like that that are just in English, they like have a different way to say it in Spanish, and that for me has always been a little bit of like a shock. Even for simple things like Wi-Fi, here it's Wi-Fi. In Mexico it's usually Wi-Fi. Like we do grab so much of America's culture that for me it's kind of like part of my life, and here it was really funny to like let that go and change the way that you say certain things. In the financial side of things, the only thing that has incremented for me was rent. So I pay more than I would pay rent back in Mexico, but if you're coming from the US, you're gonna find that the prices of housing here are way lower. You would be quite surprised at what you can find in the non-touristic areas, because of course Airbnb and all of that has hiked up the prices of some areas, and people don't really like that. I mean, I knew that I didn't like it when I was living in Mexico, but if you go for the residential areas of the city where people actually live and there's almost no tourism, you're gonna find very good prices for rent. For food, alcohol, specifically alcohol, it's way cheaper for me now. Like a glass of wine can be like 2-3 euros, and it's like a very good wine. Public transportation is quite affordable. Like I haven't seen my expenses going up, just the rent. So that for me was quite shocking. Maybe it's going to change. I mean, I don't have kids, I only have a dog, and I'm still in the process of transitioning, but so far it has been so good. As I said, I don't think that I would ever go back. If I ever move, it would probably be to another country in Europe. I just really like the lifestyle here of going out a lot and not much of like a hustle culture. Like it's calm, like everyone is calm, especially Barcelona. I always thought that I was going to want to live in Paris, but the last time that I was in Paris, you could see like the vibe in the people, that it was very much like rush, let's go to work, this and that. And here everyone is very calm, very happy. I don't know if it's the weather or the ocean that we have close to us. Living here is definitely very different from living in Madrid, so it's something that you should have to consider. Barcelona, it's a little bit less big city vibe. You don't feel that, even though you have everything that a big city has to offer, plus the beach too. Like we do have beautiful beaches and the ocean. Everything feels very calm and very compacted. Anywhere that you live, you're gonna have like a bakery next to you, a cheese store, a food market with very good quality and fresh food, a dentist. Like everything is just so like compact and packed that you have everything that you may need like a few steps away from your apartment. I think the only real con for me, it's due to my specific apartment, but I do not have air conditioning, and I know very well that I'm gonna die in the summer. But other than that, but I think I'm gonna have to work around it. I'm very happy to live here. If you want to move and you have more questions, I'm more than happy to reply in the comment section down below. You need to consider a lot of factors when you decide to move here, but overall I can tell you that it was the right decision for me. I knew very well what I was getting into and it's working out so far. So I think this is gonna be the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're into my channel, please consider subscribing, and if you're not done watching, I'm gonna leave you 2 videos right here in case you want to check them out. Thank you and see you on the next one. Bye.